Okay, hello guys, and welcome back to Bright Founders Talk by Temi, an international software development company that designs and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Today, guys, we've got with us Ralf Heim, CEO and founder of Fincite. Tell us a little bit about Fincite, just a brief kind of background of Fincite before we go into everything about it.
So Fincite is an investment advice platform. So when you know financial advisors, they have different tasks. They onboard their customers, they advise them with financial planning, with portfolio construction, with the portfolio management. They give them a reporting, how their portfolio performed. And basically our software brings the advice experience or the experience you know from modern neo-brokers or so on into an investment advice world. We have right now 7,000 advisors on the platform across 7 countries, and largely our customers are more the bigger firms.
What countries are you in at the moment?
We are coming from Germany. Mm-hmm. We then, our second biggest market was shortly after time the Dutch market. Very innovative people, very great customers. Then we had Denmark, Norway, and Finland in the area. Mm-hmm. And then the next was last year was a very great breakthrough in the US.
Wow. Tell me a little bit about that before we go into the questions. This is very interesting. So obviously the challenges that come with every new region is going to be different. Every new region will require some kind of different approach. What was that approach to get into the US?
The US is a quite interesting field. It is if you go there as a humble European, you will find that they all sounds bigger. Then you really look at this and you find that the software is actually not that like years ahead, as you rightly mentioned. So generally, US is not one market; it's many states. So we are only in New York, actually, in the area New York, New Jersey. So that's a market for itself already in financial services. And if you go there, the regulation is different. We have European infrastructure regulation on markets, on investments, the MiFID that is not there existent. So actually, Europe is a bit deeper in regulation already. The US is more case by case, which is a good thing if you go there as a software company with the stamp of you are regulated or you are regulatory compliant in Europe. And so that's I think the main difference is in our field is around regulation and infrastructure.
How long did that take you to prepare to go into the US market?
I would say it's not like we are in the enterprise business, so it's not like you need to do a lot of advanced investments if you find the right customers to go with. So for us, it was more like the customers which we met in Europe. They had US headquarters. They said like, you have great software, but you need to come with the headquarters and need to work with them. And that's how it started. And basically, it was until last year we did not do much there, just small steps. But last year, then 2 major customers signed, and we had a very strong boost in the region, and now are having several customers incoming now, talking to us and want to see what we are doing.
Really starting to flourish, after those first couple of steps. But we'll go on to that in a second because I want to hear about the challenges that came with that as well, and also the development of the team. I'm guessing that would have to come with that project. Let's start with some quite basic questions, but just a little bit more to get to know you a little bit better and also your company. So I'm going to give you a sentence and I want you to finish the end of the sentence for me. Okay. So for example, in 2022, I didn't know that.
In 2022, I didn't know that the US market is more similar and more closer to us than it is. I thought it would be further away.
Did that kind of belief that it was further away put you off from actually going into the US market before?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, nice. What about when I started out, I believed, but now I don't?
When I started out, that's a very tough one. I think very good one. I believed that we would be way superior in technology in the financial service industry than we are today. I thought that FinTech movement would have had faster impact, would have gone faster. It took very much longer than I believed.
What is your go-to saying, your go-to kind of You have a problem, something happens, and people say, "Oh, it is what it is." You know, these kind of things. How do you know something like this?
Yeah, I would say think about maximum impact. So whatever you do, I think it's always good to think about. There's one very famous saying from a psychological person. His name is Cialdini, a professor, and he said, like, it's more important what you think about than what you think of it. So it's when you focus your energy on something that is of minor importance, you still focus your energy there, and you might come to a better result than you had prior in this minor thing, but you're missing out on the big thing. And so whatever comes across my way, I think about, is this right now something of major importance, or is this right now something I can actually optimize a bit, but it's not matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't move the needle. So I think relevance and thinking about the right things is something like a mantra, I would say, or like a general philosophy.
And it's something you give yourself. It's kind of a question you put before yourself when you're making a decision.
Yeah, definitely. This is currently the right decision to make, actually. Or is this a decision somebody else can make? This is a decision that is not really moving the needle for us. That's often as an entrepreneur, you have to be like blending out a lot of things to focus on the really big things, on the most important things. And there are so many important questions. And if you start to answer the wrong question without asking the right questions, or the most important questions, then you can fill the job very easy with distraction.
Tell me about that relationship between you and your co-CEO, and how does it work? So I've done a lot of these interviews, and I haven't actually spoken with many people who have a co-CEO. So tell me about that.
You should, for example, currently one of the biggest examples of that is the German most valuable startup. It's Celonis. They perform Basti and Alex. They perform also this co-CEO role. I think the co-CEO role, when you share the CEO position, has either you work extremely well as a team together because you know each other's strengths and weaknesses and you balance it out, or you separate the tasks very clearly, and both can work. I think co-CEOs, so also another friend of mine, I will not share because I don't share the story, is that they had the same, and it was one was very chaotic, the other one was very structured, and they still worked on the same tasks together and it worked well. In our situation, it's more we separated the tasks clearly. And I'm like, I would say in German, you would say, or in British, I think you would say the foreign minister. So I'm the one for the external affairs. So for customers, for investors, for press, for anything which goes to the outside. And Friedhelm works on the inside. So he's running the product team. He's making sure everything is organized well, is structured well. He's also doing the whole internal communication. I focus on the external communication, and that's a bit how we structure our work together. And it definitely needs to be that you have a good work kind of style between the two of you.
Tell me, let's go a little bit into like right back to the beginning of the journey. So what did you actually go to solve at the beginning? Kind of two questions in one. And why were you convinced that you could do it?
Self-belief was never an issue. So we were always like very full of self-esteem, and with the ability to win. It's also like from like a sport mentality, we go in it to win it. Why we saw a problem at the beginning. The problem was that we had, for the first time in our years, we were mid-20s, so we had the first time like a bit of money, and from exit or from job, and we came from different circumstances, but we had like we got money to some degree, and we were thinking about how to invest this money. And then there was a time when robo-advisors popped up, but we said like, yeah, but robo-advisor is cool if you want to put €1,000, maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe even 100 into it. But when you think about more the really financial planning of it, and making sure you want to make this to a certain fortune, or you want to make it into a way that you can have more complex investments, not just ETFs behind it and so on, then the robo-advisor were very much failing out to deliver, because it's a very, very simple thing of ETFs and stocks and bonds. We fully believe, for example, by that time already, that there will be way more asset classes appearing, which you can invest into as a person. And one view we always had, like, if you look in like 50 years to the future, 100 years into the future, into a Star Trek kind of world, then at the end, algorithms will tell how you, for your personal financial situation, will adjust automatically with every kind of asset, every kind of investment opportunity in the world. That was the basic idea. And we tried at the beginning to build this into a digital platform, but then narrowed it down more and more towards the simple things like a financial planning, the right portfolio construction tools, and so on. But from robo-advisor to this algorithmic view, and where we sold algorithms to bank as a back-end service, which worked also as well, we then moved towards this kind of advice platform over the years. And this was a steady transition driven by customer demand. And also, if you look at this by robo-advice, which was the initial topic, it didn't pick up that well. So this was not like there are not so many huge companies resulting out of that. There are some. So we saw at the end, at the moment, it's a hybrid world. So the advisor, the human advisor, is still playing a significant role in the financial advice. So it's most next to brokerage, financial advice is way more dominant than kind of online wealth management services. And so we moved towards this while we still have the digital players on our software. Our main focus right now is really this financial advisor business.
Okay, let's talk about there. So obviously you got the regulation and challenges that's providing you as well. Let's talk a bit about the challenges which you've been through in the recent years. Let's see if we can avoid COVID, because obviously I think everyone spoke about COVID so much now, but it's difficult not to talk about because it has such a huge impact of everything that's happened over the last few years. What has been the most challenging moment for you at Fincite so far? What has been that challenging moment which you had to overcome, and how?
I think it's not one moment in time. It's the transition from a company which where we were earning a lot of money with adjusting a lot for customers, to switching to a model where the core of the platform is there and you just enhance a bit. So sometimes the customer wants to have everything built for themselves, right? We say like, yeah, but if you have this as a platform basis, you can just extend that. And this transition and this will something every enterprise software company will have to some degree usually, is that how much do you do for the customer bespoke, and how much do you put into the standard? And once you do much bespoke, you earn money with that. It's difficult to say like, I want to do this as standard. So you need to make sure that everything in the company is incentivized to keep up the standards, to make the standard platform better. I think all that, and then I told you about the story we had with the algorithms from the beginning, then moved more to the advisory suite, where we built a front end, a subscription business on top of that. All this transition from a lot of back office to really the front office platform, and the transition from building still much bespoke towards more the standard and extending that. That was, I think, the biggest challenge we had so far, yeah.
Okay, and what about for you yourself, Ralf? Very young, entrepreneur. What has been the biggest challenge? Well, from what I can see, you're very young. What has been the biggest challenge for you in your entrepreneurial journey so far?
Yeah, I think the last years were really, there was, as an entrepreneur, you are running stronger or you running more intense when you, when the dynamics from outside change. So, example, COVID, everybody's in risk management mode. We ourselves also needed to think about things that we were not having on our agenda prior. Then there comes the demand, which picks up because we are a digital advice platform. So banks were calling us like, hey, we need you fast now. And we won't need to have a digital advice now because we can not meet the customer any longer. So then demand picks up. Then we had some years without any fluctuation. And then the job market switches. In 2021, we had this huge switch in the job market towards, after COVID, everybody was a bit more careful. And in 2021, I think most companies I know have the biggest turnover in staff for years, us included. So then you have this whole change of the team. And when demand is currently picking up. So you, I think this overall trend, then we were also I think COVID helped us a lot in internationalization, because if you're an American company and you talk to the German company, you will find it more similar to the experience you have with an American company when you are currently just phoning. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. Of course, we flew to New York sometimes, but we could do most of the meetings remote. And that was also a big change because it allowed the internationalization to flourish. And so it has positive and negative effects, but just the degree and the speed of change, I think, was something where you found yourself recalibrating a lot. And that is for an entrepreneur when you have to recalibrate all the stuff around your business. So the customer side, the people side, the finance side, and your private life as well. So then you have a lot of things to manage at the same time.
Interesting. Good. It really, how did you say it? Lots of balls in the air. Absolutely. Plate spinning, most definitely.
Yeah.
With regards to, you're talking about turnover and obviously about your team there. Just before we started the call today, we spoke a little bit, obviously, us being based in Ukraine. You've also got a team of developers out in Ukraine as well. This has obviously been another challenge which you've had to go through since COVID. How have you basically coped with it? What have you been doing with the team out there? And what has been the effects it has had on the work, basically, the job?
Yeah, maybe that was the single toughest moment, I think. The 25th, I think, of February, it was when it was clear it was not just Donbass and Luhansk, which was at the discussion, but the move towards Kiev and bombs in Kiev. I think that was really the single biggest, worst night I had, I think, with business right now. We have people there, not too few, and very great people. So, and getting the information together then, talking to the customers, of course, which we have different locations, but Ukraine is not the smallest. And so we had to inform the customers directly. We have to give some kind of job security to the team, like, hey, guys, whatever happens, no, don't focus on that right now. We had to talk to any other kind of stakeholders. I talked, for example, I have a friend who's in the NATO, and I asked him, like, how do you see the situation right now? I never asked him for any advice in my life so far. It's totally different thinking. And at the same time, you just feel like you need to get all the information, which is blurry, to help the team on site when you could not. So we could not do much about it. I mean, you're closer to this than I am. You were more inside this than I am. We from us here, we rented an apartment, said come over. They could not come over. Just one female came over. So just one woman came over because she was not affected by the stop. Yeah, it was I think was very, very obscure or very, very difficult to understand what's going on there really, and how we can help the team best without disturbing them, because they have totally different other things in their mind right now. And of course, we also just the main emotion was like, there are guys which having kids are now affected by war. So it was more the social aspect, which was which was actually difficult for especially for them. Not, I mean, we were still.
So you couldn't really plan for. Yeah, you couldn't really plan for. Didn't obviously, regardless of what the warnings were before, it's not something that you believe is going to happen. So it makes it that shock. And as you're saying, it's gone into risk management mode again from that situation, from the war. Tell me, why Ukrainians? Why have you hired Ukrainian developers? And what has been the most surprising or pleasant or shocking thing about them continuing their work throughout the whole of this? What have you experienced with this?
Yeah, it was weird, right? You have this situation, you read the press, and currently all teams are in the repositories logged in, right, and are working. It was like, okay, how's the situation here? I mean, also talking about turnover, 2021, we had this turnover in the German team, just in the German team. In Ukraine, in Peru, in the other countries, I think we had like very, very limited turnover, if at all. So 1 digit, if at all. Sometimes years like where we had no turnover. And so this is something we value a lot with the teams there. That this is super high loyalty. commitment to work when they not everybody would understand when they don't. So there would be nobody somehow mad if they don't, but then they show up and basically tell you like, hey, let this be my worry. You take care of your job, I take care of my job, okay? And you see this mentality of a very strong mentality. I was very, very surprised by that under the circumstances where everybody would have said like, hey guys, all good, right? But yeah, so big kudos to the team there. It was really amazing to see that commitment. And still today, so like same situation, everybody's motivated, great mood, despite the turmoil.
I think loyalty is a great word for describing them, and also the love for work, just love for working. They love it. I mean, at the point of it being a distraction at the same point as well. So, you know, some kind of normality in the world, which is not normal right now. Yeah, amazing. Okay. Let's talk a little bit before we close. Let's talk a little bit about the future of FinTech and also the future of Fincite as well, where they're both going. So we spoke a bit how you're developing your products and how it's going to go into the future. But let's talk, we spoke at the beginning about it not developing as quickly as which once thought, people once thought 7 years ago. Have we reached that kind of the peak of FinTech, really? I mean, you kind of answered it, but it feels like everyone was expecting it and it was exploding, and now all of a sudden it's this stagnation. Have we reached the peak, or is it yet to peak?
No, I think there's one very great tool, which is the Gartner hype cycle. You might know it, right? So the hype of expected inflated expectations. So everybody's super intrigued, believes in everything will be there tomorrow. And I think in FinTech, you can separate a bit. The payment is way more already at productivity level. So I think in payment, we've seen a lot. There can be, of course, still like things on, there's some projects still out there on blockchain, which might have, or also the Apple Pay topic and the payment integration, there's still things to do. But if you look at companies like Stripe and all what built upon that, on subscription management, on different layers of this, I think we will see, of course, smart contracts still evolving more, where payment and the contractual stuff is directly linked to each other, fulfillment is linked to it. I think this will happen. I think we had the inflated expectation that it will be very fast, but it meets, and that's something where one big learning is it meets an established infrastructure. So when things meet an established infrastructure, the delta, the value is not that high. And that's why, for example, Germany is a great example for that. We had fixed line, a very good fixed line network, which is why we were so slow in mobile adoption, which is why today still there is, nowadays it got really better, but we still have sometimes like no air or no connection in Germany in areas when you are deep into the air. Yeah, you wouldn't believe that. Still, there are some areas around the forests where you do not get any connection, because it was not that much investment, because it was longer operating on fixed line than others. And the same you see in different areas of the market. So in payment infrastructure, you see this at the moment, that if there's an efficient thing going on, the adoption rate for the next big thing is a bit lower. And we see this in stock markets, we see this in payments a bit, and it's all good. I think it's all gonna take a bit, but it's gonna come. But it's the smart contract stuff and so on, it will take a bit longer before it reaches a plateau. What we didn't say yet, we are also invested in several startup companies, and for example, also there we observe this always, like where are we in the stage right now. What I believe is that in personal finance and in wealth management, there will be now the continuous growth rate is very good of everything. So there's just regular improvement. There will be no big jumps right now. It's more like regular improvement. AI, you mentioned it before. AI is a very complicated topic right now in the regulated investment world, because where can you adopt it to? You can adopt it to customer intelligence, definitely will happen. You can adopt it to the advice process itself is quite regulated, so you cannot adopt so much there. So that's why it's more a back office topic right now for us, and not something which will change the entire game. Can I envision something like an artificial intelligence helping me in my finance, definitely would be a great add-on. So I connect just my accounts and everything reads out and just give me the perfect advice about everything I have. You pay too much for your rent. You have the wrong investments. You should buy a house. You should sell your house. You should whatever. Right? Can envision that, and it still will, I think, be continuous improvement towards that over the next 20 years, and not like and it's there. And I think we can see some disruptive elements still, which are unpredictable. For example, I wouldn't have thought that neo-brokers like Trade Republic are now the thing they are. We've met them very early before they were even Trade Republic named. And we saw the idea and saw like, no, that's cool. But we didn't thought it would get an adoption of 1 million customers. So sometimes there are the elements, but they are usually in the simplicity, in the access and the simplicity. So those are usually platforms that gives you an access. Like a broker has been before there. There's been brokers that exist for many years. So you build a new broker that is just very convenient, delightful, and easy to use. The same can apply in financial advice. So somebody comes up and said like, listen, I have this kind of AI kind service and it's an app and you can download and it does everything for you. This can be a disruptive moment. It can be. So this is where I'm not sure about it. I still believe more in the steady development at the moment with what I see, because it's more complex than the broker where you just have access. But I think going for the future, I think in this field we will see rapid growth further. So I do not believe in this topic that that FinTech is now not anymore that relevant. Now it's health tech, it's energy, and it's other stuff. It's sustainability. But of course, in VC world, where you bet on these very simple winners, which have 100% growth per annum or more. In the beginning, it's just, I think the rule is triple, double, or so on. So which have staggering growth at the beginning. You need to have the simple models. And I guess for VC, the shift goes more to this kind of things and less to FinTech. And FinTech is more now in the mature, further on stage. That's my current moment, but very difficult. Predictions are difficult.
When you're talking about these disruptive moments, are they for the better or for the worst? For example, if a disruptive moment came along now, would this cause a lot more work for you at Fincite, or would it make everything go a lot more smoother, a lot more quicker most of the time?
I think both is true. Both is true. So COVID was a help if you look at it from now. If you were in the middle of it, no, it was not a help. I think also if there would be now a financial AI popping up, like ChatGPT, the traction was amazing. Imagine now somebody comes up in the US and comes with such an idea of this in the field of financial advice. Would this be a sudden game changer? Would it adopt enough people? I mean, we have currently this moment with TikTok, with other ingredients which are fueling the mentality of people caring about their finances. This is very new. So really like this mentality of get rich fast with Bitcoin. This is a good stock. And I'm not saying that's good what they do, but they fuel a fire. I'm not saying this is the right investment advice I would give, but it fuels a fire. And if there's at some moment enough traction around this, it can really happen that somebody puts up such a product and it sparks. And it really goes like very fast into this. And this would be good for us, I believe, because in the long run, change is good when you are flexible more. We are still very much flexible, I think. So I think in general, it would be good for us. But it's very interesting to see. I mean, if all advisors are not needed anymore by one day or another, our customer base would not be so good. So can also be like that. But I never saw this to this degree. It's more like then there's even more budget coming from the companies that want to beat this trend, want to jump on this trend. And then you as a software provider, you're in the trend and you get more the focus. So I usually have made the experience that disruptive moments are mostly good for you. If you are enterprise software, totally opposite can be true if you are an e-commerce. When you when one channel, for example, is breaking, because now Facebook and Apple have this kind of different, and your whole Facebook marketing engine is not working anymore. So that disruption can be very much, if your model is very much built on huge audience but small tickets, disruptive moments can have a harsh impact. But if you're an enterprise software and you are mostly having less customer but huge tickets, my feeling is at the moment still, if the banks do not die, if the advisors do not die, disruption just triggers the acceleration of innovation in our direction. So that's my view at the moment.
I guess that's where one of maybe the biggest kind of advantage of fintech is that many fintech startups are young enough to be able to adapt and be flexible enough to change, compared to obviously the old legacy banks, which don't have that flexibility because they've been around for so long. Okay, last question for you. Our listeners will be listening to this, and many people are about to start their own startup kind of journey as well in the fintech industry. What would be, you're saying there that you invest into lots of startup companies as well. What would be the advice for those people looking to build their startup, their fintech startup? And what would be the thing which would make you invest in the company?
I think most important is to figure out what the company will be. So what I mean by that is there are companies which are service providers. You can always start a service provider. It's okay. You will earn money. It's likely not that scalable, but you can make decent returns. So you can make decent profit. You can take an approach in B2C where it's an all or nothing game, where you say, like, I want to build, for example, a robo-advisor was a big thing when we started. I want to build a robo-advisor, but then you have to get to a certain number of customers, otherwise you will die. And I think the most important decision is, what kind of company do I want to build? What fits to me as a company, as a person, in my nature? Am I the guy, think big, win big, and go home if it doesn't work, and then next day, next business? It's something where I would say, like, go for this big of B2C thing. Otherwise, there's an enterprise market, a big market around companies where you need to be able to sell to them, and they need to have a totally different personality, a totally different kind of aspects in your mind. You need to be trustworthy to do big $1 million deals with them, and have to have the structures, the governance, the professionality, the product development needs to be perfect. It needs to be really, really, really good. So big banks don't buy if the software is cracking often or so on. So it's a totally different company you build than if you build, for example, this B2C kind of thing where you put TikTok in ads and you put this in it's totally different. And I've seen now we have 12 startups investments right now. We have I've seen several companies. I've been in part of 2 major in my life, and I think that's the most important, to figure out what kind of person you are. And what I found, or what we usually find, is when you know the market very well. To be fair, we work more with the senior founders, so most founders are older than I am. I'm older than you think. I think I am, but so I'm mid-30. But I think for us, mostly the aspect is, do we trust the founder to win that market? So is this the right founder to, for example, we have one venture, which is an asset manager. And to run an asset manager, you need to be good in the product. You need to be good in the institutional sales. And these guys doing tremendous work, but they have been 20 years private banking executives before, right? So totally different thing. So if you are just out of university, it might be easier to start something which more is towards the B2C side, because you know their problems. It's always easier to start in a business where you are closer to the problems. So the first thing I would think of myself as a founder, again, if I would be 25, 22, 28, maybe even 60 still, okay? Again, I would think about the question is, who is my audience and who can I relate with? So, and for me, it was 7 years now in this banking industry, was very difficult to get to the standard where my most customers are 20 years older than I am. So the banking executives, which bought our software, we had good traction and we had the luck that we were in the right time at the right place. But I think it's very much easier if you are more similar to your customers, or if you think about that. If I have no idea, I would be starting again at mid-20. This would be the first question I would ask myself is, who am I? What am I buying? What are the kind of products that people like me want to have? And what can I build? And that is maybe a good starting point already.
business, really down in the weeds, knowing the problem that you're facing, you have yourself to understand why it's so important to actually solve. Well, okay, Ralf, really interesting to speak to you. Really interesting to know everything that's going on at Fincite as well. So thank you very much for joining on our podcast.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Have a great time, Matt.